Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm happy to rise today to contribute to the Early Childhood Legislation Amendment in brackets principal approval in premises approval in principle bill end bracket bill not 2023. The positive bill-making changes that we order today deliver more centres and spaces across Victoria. It will amend legislation to help builders, developers, education, care and service providers to obtain approval in principle from regulatory authorities for centres based in multi-storey buildings, which is actually a very complex circumstance to arrange. Multi-level buildings do present a very unique challenges for housing childcare centres, but I'm pleased to see we're taking proactive approach here in an effort to get more centres into more locations where we desperately need them. And that is, the purpose of this bill is coming from my previous profession, Deputy Speaker. The purpose of the bill is to give pre-approval to builders and developers, etc., so they can get the regulations right at the start. But I wonder, it makes me a little, not concerned, I'm happy the government's put this forward, but what we have in this state at the moment is we have a planning system that's quite broken. And I think we have heard the Premier the former Premier on previous occasions really berate councils, and because of the hold-up in planning, and it happens across the state. I'm not going to single out any LGA, but it does happen across the state. We heard the former Premier on quite a few occasions berate councils for holding up the planning process. Now, the problem is our councils across this state are trying to adhere to government regulations when it comes to planning approval. So I'm just wondering, is this bill coming forward now to, rather than fixing the planning process, to shortcut this area so we can get these childcare centres up and going quicker, which we all know we desperately need? Victoria is a state that is growing in population, we realise that, and I do appreciate, and as does everyone in this chamber appreciate that early learning is very important. And we do have quite a waiting list across the state for people to get their children into early learning. And we need these spaces available because we need more people in the workforce. We need that, and we need it desperately, because there's a lot of businesses out there struggling at the moment to get staff. So the more childcare places we have, the better off our economy will be, because we will have more people working. So I just wonder if part of this is actually shortcutting a process where the government should really be looking at planning as an overall picture, not just one specific part. And the government has to look at planning, and they have to look at the regulations of planning, because it is holding up numerous things across Victoria, and it's not just childcare centres. We always, in this chamber, we talk about a lack of housing. Again, if government looked at the planning schemes and reformed planning so developers can get more land released, so we can bring down the price of housing, this would go a long way to ease cost of living as well, especially when it comes to buying a house or purchasing a house. But there's no more, in regional Victoria, our access to childcare centres is very, very low. And in my electorate, I know many people that are waiting to get into childcare centres or early learning centres. And the other challenge we have in this space is the lack of staff, and we have lack of facilities and lack of staff and lack of places. There's three main contributing factors as to why there is so much pressure on childcare. And the government really has to have a plan going forward. I know the government has the 50 centres they're trying to bring out. I think 4 are going to be completed by 2025. I think the Minister for Local Government said earlier. I think the government needs to accelerate that. I don't think 4 in the space of the next 18 months is quite enough. And in regional Victoria and in my electorate, in the first round of releases, we didn't get any. Not one of the government government-owned centres was in the seat of Narrabeen. Now, I bring this up because the Minister for Local Government brought it up earlier, and it astounds me. I hear the government say quite often that, you know, we're here for all Victorians, but when you've got one of the fastest growing regions, and my electorate covers the Shire of Cardinia and the Shire of Baw Baw, two of the fastest growing LGAs in the state, but not one of these government-owned centres in my electorate, and that's concerning for me. I know the West Gippsland Hospital, for example, there's 1,000 babies a year born at the West Gippsland Hospital. So in a few years' time, but that's just West Gippsland, not Cardinia. And the only reason it's 1,000 babies a year at the West Gippsland Hospital is because that's all they can cope with. So anyone else in my electorate has to go elsewhere to have babies. That's all they can handle at West Gippsland. It is capped.
Order. The Minister on a point of order.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. And while I appreciate the passion with which the member is advocating for his community and his deep care in this issue, I would ask that the member, or that you direct the member to talking not so much about healthcare, which I understand is also an area of passion for him, but go back to childcare and planning as opposed to healthcare.
Thank you, Minister. It has been a wide-ranging debate. I encourage the member to come back to the bill, and let's proceed.
Babies do grow up eventually, so hence why I went to the babies. But that's okay. And I did hear the Minister for Local Government talk earlier about the childcare desert and areas that need them. Well, if we're going to talk about childcare deserts, then Narrabeen would be the Sahara, because we have been really, really let down by the government in childcare and having funding for childcare. And the problem we have, because of the government's lack of interest in Narrabeen and lack of interest in early learning or childcare centres, it is putting pressure on our mums and dads. They can't get back to work. They need to wait for positions. And I'll encourage the government. We support this bill. There's not a problem with the bill. We support it. But I will encourage the government to invest in regional Victoria a little bit more than what they are doing, and not just invest in regional Victoria in Labor seats. Invest in regional Victoria in seats that are held on this side of the chamber, because we suffer the same pressures as everyone else around the state. And I would like to see in the next round of offers of the government centres that are going to be built, I think there's another 20 to be released very soon, I would like to see the next round some of those in my electorate. I don't think when you represent an electorate that has two of the fastest growing LGAs in the state, that it's fair that they miss out on these government centres as well. It is extremely important for my electorate so people can get back to work. We in regional Victoria, we struggle to get workers, we struggle to get staff, we struggle to get doctors, nurses and everything else. So anything the government can do to help my electorate, to get these childcare centres up and going so we can have more people working and taking the pressure off businesses and everything else, I would really appreciate. Just in closing, Speaker, it's all right, I'll bring it home. Calm down. Speaker, it was pleasing that in seeking advice from parties who might be impacted by these changes, that largely it was positive. They want to see more clarity from the government on issues like these, clearer regulation around planning and pre-approval centres certainty. It appears too that the government has taken on board criticism that was raised last year and engaged more stakeholders to ensure their views and concerns are being addressed in these amendments. This is something we need to see more from this government. Get out at Spring Street and listen, and you will get better results.